A new era is officially underway at one of the country's most historic dirt track facilities. Welcome to Midco Motorsports. I'm Brian Shawn. Just weeks after Todd Quiring stepped in to save Huset Speedway, racing is back in Brandon. And they went big right out of the gate with Tony Stewart's All-Star Circuit of Champions headlining last week's grand reopening festivities. The recap is this week's A Feature. A capacity crowd filled the stands at Huset's in the return to racing, with Kyle Larson coming in winning 7 straight All-Star Circuit of Champions races. But his streak ended early in the night with a wild flip in his heat race. He would be okay. The late model street stocks were on the track for the first feature at Huset's since 2017. The 29 of J.J. Zabel led early, but he would lose control spinning out in turn 2. The second and third place cars would also get caught up in the caution and have to go to the back of the pack. The 64 of Corey Yai inherited the lead on his 40th birthday, and the race was on from there. On the final lap, Zach Oliver would lead down the backstretch, but Yai gets the momentum on the high line in turn 4 and would pick up the win in thrilling fashion in an entertaining feature race.
I stabbed the brakes to miss a couple cars in the beginning. I felt the brake hose blow. So I had to refigure a bunch of stuff out. Yeah, the last 2 laps was pretty intense. I thought I lost it, but I just stood on the gas and hoped for the best, and it worked out.
Then it was time for the $20,000 to win sprint car feature with the 4-wide salute. Kerry Madsen started on the pole, grabbed the lead early, and would be in front for most of the race. But as laps traffic came more and more into play, Madsen's pace slowed and Corey Eliason would start to reel him in. Finally, on lap 23, Eliason gets around him on the high side to take the lead for good. Dominic Scelzi would follow Eliason's line up high and close the gap, but the Rudine Racing number 26 picks up his first All-Star win of the season and pulls within 92 points of the series championship lead.
It's definitely humbling. You know, we kind of struggled for the past 2 or 3 months. No consistency for me, myself. So you start doubting, and then we come here to a new racetrack, and it's like, man, I'm really not sure how this is going to play out. But, you know, the place is badass. The facility's nice, and it just so happens, you know, we come out with the win. So I'm super, super stoked about that. I drove around Kerry, and then the yellow come out, and I thought that was it because he's going to surely move up. And he did. He just got into lap traffic, and I think he got into the fence and allowed me to slip by. And he got back by me, but I somehow managed to get back by him in lap traffic. So I'm just glad that it came over. I started checking. I'm like, man, the flagman's got to grab the flag soon. So he did, fortunately, and we got the win.
Well, Dakota Speedway played host to its own headline event over the weekend. Highlights from night 2 of the annual Governor's Cup are coming up next.
Midco Motorsports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Dakota Speedway.
And welcome back. The annual 2-day North Dakota Governor's Cup at Dakota Speedway in Mandan featured a packed lineup with 6 different classes hitting the track, including the Northern Outlaws Sprint Association sprint cars. The event also featured a special guest appearance by 27-year NASCAR veteran Kenny Wallace, who made the trip up from St. Louis to race his modified and meet the fans. A beautiful night in Mandan for day 2 of the event at Dakota Speedway. The night starting off with the Wissota Street Stocks. Kyle Anderson in the 59 would start off on the pole, racing next to day 1 winner Hunter Damagla. It wouldn't take long for Damagla to catch him as the 97 takes the lead on lap 3. The race would run caution-free as Damagla pulls away from the pack for his second win in as many nights to win the Governor's Cup. And yeah, a little time to celebrate. Next up, the Imca Modifieds with former NASCAR driver Kenny Wallace competing after finishing 8th on day 1. The 1D of Mark Dahl would start off on the pole and battle with Marcus Tomlinson for position around the first couple turns, as Dahl would hold on to the early lead. A caution flag flies on lap 6 as Quentin Kinsley gets turned around in turns 3 and 4. A restart would bunch up the field, but Dahl, breaking in a brand new car, would roll to victory, his first since 2018, to win the Governor's Cup title. Meanwhile, Kenny Wallace finished runner-up after starting in 11th position and addressed the crowd later, thanking them for the hospitality. 27 cars on the grid with the NOSA sprint cars in the finale. Blake Eglin starting on the pole and taking the early lead with Jade Hastings and Jordan Adams right behind him. But on lap 3, Bob Martin coming out of nowhere, putting a slide job on Eglin for the lead. Martin would maintain the top spot, and with 8 laps to go, last year's Governor's Cup champion Wade Nygaard was starting to reel him in. But he would lose control coming out of turn 2, ending his bid to repeat as champion. Previous night's winner Brendan Mullen would be next to Martin on the restart, and the youngster would give the veteran all he could handle, but Martin able to squeeze by on the back straightaway and pull away for the victory and take home the 2020 North Dakota Governor's Cup, with Mullen finishing just a single point back.
The whole event is huge. I've never won it. I finally get to say I won it. It's a bit surreal right now, so I'll spend a little time thinking about it, but in the end, it's probably going to be the biggest weekend of my year this year, especially with the virus going on. We haven't raced a ton, but that's the whole thing. This will probably be the biggest weekend of the year, if not in the past 10 years.
Well, the racing community lost one of its greats last week with Hall of Fame driver Lou Kennedy passing away. The Winnipeg native started racing back in 1959 and won numerous races throughout the upper Midwest in the 60s and 70s. After he retired as a driver, he helped his son Lou Jr. become one of the top-tier drivers in the area as well, winning 2 NOSA championships. His grandson Thomas and granddaughter Amber have also gone on to become accomplished drivers in the sport as well. Lou Kennedy was 81 years old. Well, over the last month, Dustin Strand has been a marked man with the NLRA late models. Could he make it 4 straight wins at River City Speedway? We'll have the answer when we come back. Welcome back. Dustin Strand has been his usual solid self in the late model division all season, but the driver out of East Grand Forks really found his groove in July, winning all 3 of his starts at River City Speedway. Friday, Strand hoped to stretch that streak to 4 as he returned to the legendary bullring with the NLRA Racing Series. The track even offered an incentive, $300 to any driver that could finish ahead of Strand in the feature. The Wissota Street Stocks open up the night with the 7 car of James Mager getting out front and grabbing the early lead, with Seth Klostreich quickly sneaking his way into the 2nd spot. But Mager would lead it from start to finish and take the checkered flag, winning by less than a second. A good battle up front of the Lightning Sprint main event. The 93 of Kelsey Peterson would hold the top spot, but Dexter Bergston in pursuit. He eventually maneuvers past Peterson for the lead and would hold on for his 3rd win of the season and 1st at River City Speedway. Next on the track were the Midwest Mods, and late in the race, with Nate Reynolds leading, a major pileup on the restart as the B0 of Jory Bird gets sideways. 5 cars total involved in the wreck that would not be able to finish the race. The 17 of Lance Schill would get Reynolds in his sights, looking for his 3rd win of the month at River City Speedway, but could not get by the Hoople, North Dakota native as he brings the 6R to the checkered flag and picks up his 4th win of the season. Dustin Strand would have his work cut out for him in the late model feature, starting in row 7 looking for his 4th straight win. Bryce Ward would lead the field for the first 7 circuits, but Dave Moss and the 12S of Brad Seng would start to close in. The 3-way battle goes to Seng to take the top spot with 18 laps to go, and he would weave his way through lap traffic and drive away to pick up his 39th NLRA victory by more than 3 seconds. Strand would grind his way to a 5th place finish.
You know what? The car kind of came alive. I guess I like to maybe set up a little bit for the end of the feature instead of the beginning of it. And tonight we went 5 extra laps, and it might have fell into my favor. But hats off to the track crew here at River City's. Nice, smooth, racy racetrack, and yeah, we'll take them anytime we can get them now.
108 cars checked in on a beautiful Saturday night at I-90 Speedway. In the street stock feature, a 3-way battle for the lead between Briley Goff, Dan Jensen, and Corey Yai. Coming from 13th, Yai steals the lead on the top, coming to the white flag, and he would hold off all comers in the final circuit for the win. A great weekend for Yai with 3 victories in 3 nights. In the 305 main event, Chris Thram started back in row 5 but made up ground quickly to take the lead in the opening laps. He would have to weave his way through lap traffic with Dusty Ballinger closing in, but the 16-year-old Thram would pull away and pick up his first feature win of the season at I-90. In the finale, 22 Tri-State late models lined up for the 25-lap feature. The 22 of Gary Brown Jr. started on the front row and wasted no time taking the top spot. With 3 laps to go, lap traffic is 3 wide in front of the leaders, with Scott Ward in the 37 car closing in. But the 2-time series champion slipping by on the high side to get some breathing room and would go on to earn his first career win in a late model at the track.
It did get a little worrisome there with, I think it was about 4 or 5 to go and they went 3 wide. I think it was out of turn 4, but it just, sometimes you have things just go your way. Tonight was one of those nights where it just kind of seemed like they just spread open for me at the right time and I was able to get by them.
Ricky Weiss put together the single greatest rookie season in World of Outlaws late model history, and there's been no signs of a sophomore slump. We'll check in with the reigning Rookie of the Year after this. In a span of just 2 years, Canadian late model driver Ricky Weiss has gone from River City's regular to a World of Outlaws contender. Midco SN's Jeremy Klein caught up with the reigning Rookie of the Year during his recent swing through North Dakota to get his thoughts on that extremely quick ascent.
Joined social distantly with World of Outlaw late model driver Ricky Weiss as he makes his way here into North Dakota. Ricky, appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a whirlwind of 6 months or a year for our country and the world, and it affects you guys too. You guys have had races canceled and postponed. Just how has this year gone for you so far in your eyes?
As far as results, I mean, we've been having a really good year. It's definitely been odd, going to some of these tracks where there's no fans, there's nobody. I've been on the end where we won one race there and got out of the car and there was nobody there other than the photographers. But it's definitely been a different one. It goes week by week. We got a 6-week schedule that gets flip-flopped and changes hourly. So
you're from Canada and the border's closed for the most part, and not all Canadian drivers have been able to get down here. How did that all work out, or what was the story about how you just kind of have been able to drive so far?
Really, we were a little bit different than most of them. We do it for, kind of our everyday job. So I got a work visa that I was able to, show the border and let them know that, I'm not just coming down here for pleasure. This is what I do for.
Yep.
So a lot of people back at home, they're frustrated. They got all their stuff ready. They did all their stuff over the winter and they just want to go race, and it's tough for them, but I know all the drivers at home and all the fans they're watching us and supporting us. So
2 really big years for you to start your World of Outlaws tour. Last season, 3rd in points, Rookie of the Year. This year, you're already sitting 2nd in points. Did you think that you would be this successful this quickly?
No, definitely not. I mean, last year to be able to say we ran 3rd overall, we were just ecstatic with that, and we set our goal to try to win the Rookie of the Deal, and we got that. So now this year we're just trying to set our goals a little bit higher. Brandon Shepard's been on the tear, but to be able to say we're 2nd in points and we got quite a lead on 3rd there, and so we're pretty happy with that so far.
Still early in this deal with the World of Outlaws. Where do you feel like you've improved the most, and how much have you just learned just racing with these guys night in and night out?
I've learned a lot. I mean, everywhere you go. Last year was new to us. A lot of the tracks were different. First time there, but this year we're able to fill our notebook a little bit, and you just learn so much racing at that level and against these guys. I'm just ecstatic to say that we're able to compete with them, and we actually picked up a few wins this year already.
Being from Manitoba, I mean, this area is nothing new to you. What's it like being back in North Dakota? And you might get to race River Cities, we'll see in a couple of hours, but definitely get a chance to go down to West Fargo too. So what's it just like being back in this area?
I love it. I mean, I love coming back to, our home tracks, and we got a lot of fans here from North Dakota and Minnesota, and they support us a lot, and I wish our Canadian fans could be here as well. But no, it's nice to, it it adds a little bit of stress, but in the same sense, it takes a little bit of stress off you, knowing that you're at a familiar surface. So.
The month of July has been really good to you. The state of Wisconsin has been really good to you. 5 of your last 6 races, you finished in the top 5. How do you keep that momentum going in these coming weeks?
You just gotta work hard in the shop. We've been working, day in, day out. We've been racing a lot, and my guys have really been really working hard. I can't thank them enough, because obviously I wouldn't be sitting here without any of them and their hard work and our sponsors. But like I say, we've just been really consistent, and that's what shows us when it comes to points.
Only one racer ahead of you on the standings. It's Brandon Shepard, who's having just an unbelievable year. 9 wins, 19 top 10 finishes. I mean, what do you got to do the rest of the way to just try to catch him on the leaderboard?
You just got to be there. I mean, race door to door with him, and you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good. I've always said that, and he's both. I mean, they come prepared, and they know these tracks. Mark and the whole team there, they are one well-prepared team, and Brandon's a heck of a driver, and it shows when they unload, and it don't matter what the surface is like anymore. It don't matter if it's rough, smooth, dry, fast. He's out front. So we're working, we're tweaking on our car, and we're getting better every night, and hopefully we can knock him off the top one of these times.
Well, Ricky, we appreciate the time. Hopefully the weather holds up for this weekend, and you get to get a few races in down here in North Dakota.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and like I say, hi to everybody back at home, and just keep following us as best as you can. And thanks to all my sponsors, and we'll do what we can to support.
Ricky Weiss, everybody.
Well, he's been a big part of the action at Jackson Motorplex over the last couple of years, but there's a decent chance you've never even seen him. Alex Heinert will introduce us to this talented young announcer when Midco Motorsports rolls on.
Midco Motorsports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Dakota Speedway.
Well, behind the scenes, the sights, smells, and sounds of dirt tracks are all a part of the fan experience. And yes, the sounds include the roar of the cars and the cheers from the crowd. But the description of the action on the track from the announcers are also a key part. One of those voices on the PA system is Austin Lloyd, who is following a passion while following in his father's footsteps. Alex Heinert has his story in this week's Inside Track presented by Dakota Speedway.
If you've attended a race at Jackson Motorplex in the last 5 years, this is the voice you've heard coming over the loudspeaker.
We are green flag racing here on Ag Builders Night at the Jackson Motorplex. Good start for Slendy. He takes the lead into turns 1 and 2.
Those are the dulcet tones of 28-year-old Austin Lloyd, one of the rising stars in dirt track racing's announcing world.
Into a 360 this season. Second lap for Bosma. 7th quick for Brandon Bosma with a 14.446.
What I think is impressive about Austin is what's impressive about all good announcers, in that he shows up to the racetrack ready to go. He's got his stats, he's got his information, and his homework is done, and he knows how to use that information.
There's kind of a spectrum, I think, between the information givers and the fun people. And I think some guys try too hard to be the fun people. That's not who I am. I'm not the catchphrase guy. I'm not the one-liner guy. I'm just gonna call the race as I see it, and I think that's good enough for me.
A big part of Austin's success and appeal is his obvious love for the sport he's calling, a passion that runs in the family and started long before he could pick up a microphone.
My dad was heavily involved in racing. He was a crew guy for a gentleman named Mark DeBoer, who raced street stocks in the area. I was at the races the first time when I was 6 weeks old, hanging out with Dad, and got involved that way and just, kept going, never stopped going.
That interest in racing stayed with Austin throughout his formative years, and soon he was working alongside his father at Park Jefferson Speedway.
My dad and I actually got to do a lot of the physical labor and manual work to reopen Park Jefferson, so I did that for a year. I was just kind of helping promote the show.
Through connections Austin made at the track, he soon found himself behind the mic and had to learn on the fly how to do the job. He was 22 years old at the time.
A to Z Promotions was the owner of the facility, and the Z part of that was Justin Zock, and he was the weekly announcer at Knoxville for a long time. So my first night announcing, first night with a microphone, Justin Zock was there, and he basically grabbed the microphone, said, "Welcome race fans to Park Jefferson Speedway 2015 season. Let me hand it over to your weekly announcer, Austin Lloyd." And he gave me the microphone, and that was my introduction to announcing. The only advice Justin Zock gave me that night is I would tell him these little things about the drivers, you know, between races and stuff like that, and he was like, "What, all the things you're telling me, tell them, tell the audience."
It didn't take long for Austin to hit his stride at Park Jefferson, and after one summer, he got his second big break.
My first year, 2015, I was at Park Jefferson. At the end of that season, Josh Holtzapfel from Worthington, he ran Nobles County Speedway at the time. He had me come up and do his fall special at the end of the year in Worthington, and Doug Johnson happened to be there. And that off season, Doug Johnson called me and said, "Do you want to come work at Jackson?" And I've been here ever since.
Jackson Motorplex is one of the dirt track racing meccas in the country now, and to step in here and have the caliber of shows that they have, whether it's Midwest Power Series or World of Outlaws at the Jackson Nationals, this place is huge.
This really is a marquee facility, and it really is one of the most visible announcing jobs in the country. So the fact that I have it at such a young age with only 1 year experience before I got it really tells me that, you know, I'm on the right track and doing the right things.
Austin is quick to acknowledge the local legends that he's learned from.
In this part of the world, we have some of the best announcers in the country. When you talk about Sean Neistat at Huset for years, and I'm very fortunate to be able to pair up with him a couple of times this year in Jackson. We talk about Mark Tassler of years old, talk about Tony Backoven at Knoxville.
But it's clear the main inspiration behind his career is the man who brought him to his first race all those years ago. The one who pushed him to try his hand at announcing.
It was still so fresh in me how much he always told me, "Man, that's what you should do."
Austin's father, Mark Lloyd, never got to hear his son live out his dream over the PA system. In 2015, Mark tragically passed away far too young at age 47 after a battle with pancreatic cancer.
Every night when I drive home from Jackson, I wish I could call my dad. I wish I could tell him what I'm doing. I grew up 2 blocks from Huset's. We sat on the very top row of turn 4 at Huset's, and there are times where I come here and I sit in the top row of turn 4 before all the race cars get here, and I think about, God, I wish my dad could see what I'm doing, you know? And I'm sure Dad would be really proud. I just wish I could hear him say that, you know? That's the hard thing. I'm especially fortunate to have who I have at home. You know, when I wish I could call my dad, I call my wife, and that's just as good.
So the next time you're at Jackson and you hear Austin over the loudspeaker, remember to be thankful. Thankful for where you are, what you get to witness, and especially who you're with. And then, enjoy the show. You know Mark would have, and you know Austin will.
This is a dream job for me. I am the luckiest race fan in central Minnesota, I'll tell you that.
Great story there. Lloyd was also a part of the Flow Racing broadcast of the first race back at Huset's over the weekend. That is our time for this week. For Alex Heinert, Jeremy Klein, our producer Levi Vanderwhite, and the rest of our crew, I'm Brian Shawn. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here next Wednesday night for another episode of Midco Motorsports.